This Good Friday, some people are saying that there could be a reawakening after the Notre Dame fire, driving some so-called zombie Catholics back to church. I'm Michelle Powers. That story is next.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio leads Good Friday services in Brooklyn and Queens. I'm Tim Harfman, and that story is coming up.
Pope Francis prostrating himself before the cross of Christ, marking Good Friday at the Vatican. And Bishop DiMarzio following Jesus' example on Holy Thursday, washing the feet of 12 Brooklyn parishioners. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. This Good Friday in Paris is leading up to the resurrection of Christ and the rebuilding of Notre Dame Cathedral. Parisians processing through the streets of their city for the way of the cross. Now, by all accounts, the Notre Dame disaster is strengthening the faith in the City of Lights. The rector of Notre Dame is saying tonight that a computer glitch might have caused the inferno that ravaged a large part of the Catholic landmark. Father Patrick Chauvet did not go into detail about his claim. He did say learning exactly what happened may take 2 to 3 months. Good Friday services are being held all over Paris tonight, despite the fire that ravaged their beloved Notre Dame. Currents News' Michelle Powers is joining us now from Paris. Michelle.
Liz, a Good Friday procession just ended about less than a mile from here. People are still in the streets. Processions taking place all over the country. I was at one in a neighboring diocese, and it grew at every station. The Diocese of Nanterre is less than 10 miles from Notre Dame. So close, the land used to be part of the Archdiocese of Paris.
Notre Dame is the beginning of all the measures of distance in France. And that's a very impressive symbol. It means Notre Dame is really the center of our country.
Bishop Matthew Roge says the cathedral is mile zero. It's how the French measure distances all over the country. But it's more than just that. It's their history. And through the grace of flames and the way of the cross, some are rediscovering it this Good Friday.
I'm very prudish about what I feel in all aspects, but I think there is a different sense today.
I have seen a lot of people praying at this time, not only for Notre Dame, I think, but for the church in general.
Once among the most Catholic countries in the world, sometimes called the eldest daughter of the church, in recent years France has seen a serious decline in church-going numbers.
In France, you live in France, you are in some way related to Catholic Church, but many ignore it.
Bishop Roge speculates that the Notre Dame fire just may ignite a spiritual reawakening of sorts.
This type of event, a reawakening, a spiritual reawakening, is a long adventure.
One that might already be underway across secular France. Among the modern cityscapes, today there are thousands following Jesus to his death. Sociologists in the country call the phenomena the rise of zombie Catholics, people who do not attend church, but voters who turn out in droves to support leaders backing Catholic social teachings. The sociologists who coined the term say it's Catholicism having attained a life after death in France, and no one is quite sure just where it will go.
I think that this could help to make them come out easier about their feelings.
As the way of the cross made its way around the Diocese of Nanterre, more people joined in, the crowd growing in size at every station. Possible so-called zombies finding their way back spiritually.
All the people who have been moved by Notre Dame and want to meet other believers or be with other people to share some sort of event.
A resurrection just in time for Easter. Remember, the Archbishop of Paris said himself that this is a time to not only focus on rebuilding the cathedral, but rebuilding the Catholic faith. In Paris, Michelle Powers, Currents News, back to you.
Michelle, what kind of people are taking part in the Way of the Cross?
Liz, this morning it was mostly young people, and that was something that the bishop there was very excited about. With every stop, more and more young people who he hadn't seen before were joining the procession.
Well, do you think then that it's possible that a revival can start with them?
That is the hope of the church, because how can the Catholic faith continue otherwise? It must start with the young people. And a number of Catholic news agencies here in France have done some surveys, and they find that it is the younger generation that has stronger faith than their parents. And this is the hope for the future.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.
Restoring Notre Dame to its former glory is going to be a massive undertaking. French President Emmanuel Macron is promising to rebuild the cathedral in 5 years, but some are predicting it could take decades. Crux faith and culture correspondent Claire Jean Gravet has been talking to experts and art historians about the scope of this restoration. She joins us now from Paris. Claire, as always, so good to talk to you. These experts, they're confident about the rebuilding process, but it's not going to be easy. What are you learning about the restoration efforts?
Hi Liz, as you can see behind me, the face of Notre Dame is saved, but so much more is at stake. The soul of Notre Dame, which is all the treasures and beauty and art it contains. Art historians, experts in renovations, people who have been working on the ground in Paris for decades, fixing other cathedrals that are facing the challenge of trying to be restored and the upkeep, are telling us that it may be more difficult than it seems, because Gothic cathedrals especially are like places filled with secrets. They're complex. Some of the technologies that our ancestors used to create them are very hard to understand, and some people told me that even just trying to knock down a wall reveals mysteries that we never foreseen. So right now people are looking at this place and trying to understand that even though 95% of the art that was inside was saved, so much more could be in peril.
And Claire, to put this in even more perspective, the famed organ alone is going to take years to restore. Tell us more about that.
We're talking about one of the most beautiful and oldest organs in Europe. It was massive. We're talking about 8,000 pipes that were there to accompany the Gregorian chants that would escalate over the Gothic spires and cathedrals, all going upwards. And there's a risk, fortunately the organ was saved, but it will take at least 2 years for people to clean it, fine-tune it, each one of these 8,000 organ pieces, so it's very, very difficult.
Now there's a note of caution here that we want to talk about. Even though experts are confident they can rebuild, Notre Dame structurally is not out of danger, correct?
That is correct, because not only has the roof caved in, but our ancestors, the medieval people, figured out these strong arms called flying buttresses that would sort of juxtapose the weight that was played off with wood and lead. So it's very delicate right now, and there's a risk that if the vault collapses, we might just get the whole of Notre Dame, but not its soul. And people in France right now are concerned, beyond the reconstruction, beyond the rebuilding, will the heart of Notre Dame survive?
All right, thank you so much, Claire. A lot of really great information there. Thank you so much for all that great reporting. We will be checking back with you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Currents News will continue to bring you the latest developments on the rebuilding of Notre Dame. Michelle Powers will remain in Paris to report on the ground through the weekend. You can watch her reports on our website, currentsny.tv. Here in the U.S., Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is observing Good Friday throughout the diocese today. This morning, leading the Way of the Cross procession that traveled over the Brooklyn Bridge. He's currently at Our Lady of Miraculous Metal Church in Ridgewood, Queens, and that's where Currents News' Tim HARFMANN is standing by. Tim.
Liz, as we speak, Bishop DiMarzio is inside leading the solemn liturgy of the Passion. I'll have more on that in a moment. But earlier today, the bishop led the Way of the Cross procession over the Brooklyn Bridge, and it all started after a prayer service. For the solemn service at St. James Cathedral in downtown Brooklyn, standing room only as worshipers packed the pews and entrance on this Good Friday.
It's a day we remember Christ's death, and it's a day that we remember many other innocent people who have died in the world today. This is a a violent world where many innocent people give their lives.
After the prayers, Bishop DiMarzio is joined by the Pope's ambassador to the United Nations, Archbishop Bernardino Auza, for the Way of the Cross procession over the Brooklyn Bridge, the walk symbolizing the Lord's path to his crucifixion.
Christ suffered for us, and we have to also suffer for the world. We have to join our sufferings to the work of Christ in redeeming the world.
The procession is a collaboration with Communion and Liberation, a Catholic international lay movement. RAQUEL ISAZA is a member of the group.
New York City is such a big melting pot, and in such a public place like the Brooklyn Bridge, we can all get together.
The Catholics praying the Stations of the Cross and picking up other worshipers along the way.
Like the Pope says, go to the ends to meet the people. So we go over the bridge meeting other people.
The symbolic procession ending near the World Trade Center.
I'm really excited and I feel emotional and I feel like really happy to see a lot of people having the Holy Week in their hearts.
Back here in Ridgewood, Bishop DiMarzio is inside Our Lady of Miraculous Meadow Church leading the Good Friday procession.
Sanctify your servants.
It includes reading the Lord's Passion, the bishop's homily, and communion before worshipers process through the streets of Ridgewood. Father Anthony Sansone is the church's pastor and says the procession draws the attention of those who may have turned away from the church.
There's always the curious, and they look from a distance, and they stop, at this few hundred people that are in this procession with statues and with the cross, of course, and that becomes an event in itself, which allows them to say, oh, something is unique about today. Ah, yes, this is Good Friday. This is about the death of Jesus.
Worshippers are processing to the neighboring St. Aloysius Church and back. Then Bishop DiMarzio will lead a prayer service in Italian. Churches throughout Brooklyn and Queens are also leading their own Good Friday services. In Ridgewood, Queens, Tim HARFMANN, Currents News. Liz, back to you.
Pope Francis is participating in the Passion of the Lord at the Vatican this Good Friday, prostrating himself before the cross of Christ in humble veneration. The service, which includes the rite of communion, is considered one of the most moving ceremonies of Holy Week. Francis also presides at the Way of the Cross in Rome's Colosseum, which will be broadcast following this newscast. Bishop DiMarzio leading one of the major highlights of Holy Week on Holy Thursday last night, following the example set by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper. Currents News' Emily Drewby reports.
It's one of the most important Catholic liturgies of the year, the Mass of the Lord's Supper.
In the unity of the Holy Spirit.
Celebrated by Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio at the St. James Co-Cathedral, the liturgy commemorates both the institution of the Holy Eucharist,
the body of Christ,
and the beginning of the priesthood, which Jesus accomplished at the Last Supper.
He left us his presence in the Eucharist, so that's the greatest gift we have, especially as Catholics, because we believe it's the real presence. It's not just the commemoration, it's not just the symbolic, it's a real presence.
Much of the Mass is similar.
One God forever and ever.
There are some important additions, especially the washing of the feet of 12 members of the Brooklyn Diocese, with Bishop DiMarzio following the example of Jesus washing the feet of his 12 apostles at the Last Supper.
It's important because it does show the humility of Christ, and he showed us that we need to do the same thing, and that's why the celebrant of the Mass would be washing the feet of 12 people.
Father Peter PURPURA, the Co-Cathedral's rector, helped choose the 12 this year, people he believed were representatives of the community.
We're the only parish in Brooklyn that has Mass interpreted every Sunday. So 2 of the 12 would be from the deaf community. There's a college student who's been very active here from another state, who's graduating in May.
One of those people, Michael GILBRIDE, a victim survivor of clergy sexual abuse.
Having my feet washed by the bishop was very humbling. It means service to me. It means that we are to do what the Lord did.
At the conclusion of Mass, a transition from celebrating to recalling the suffering and death of Jesus. During that time, the Blessed Sacrament is moved from the tabernacle to another location called the Altar of Repose. It was there that parishioners continued the adoration well into the night, taking a moment to remember and reflect on Christ's sacrifices. In downtown Brooklyn, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Tune into Net TV for Easter coverage. Special live programs will be televised leading up to Christ's resurrection on Sunday. Tonight, immediately following Currents News, The Way of the Cross with Pope Francis presiding from Rome at 7 p.m. On Saturday, the Easter Vigil from the Vatican will be televised at 2:30 p.m. The Vigil at St. James Basilica will get underway at 8. The full Holy Week television schedule is posted at netny.tv. New details tonight about the suspect charged with attempted arson at St. Patrick's Cathedral. We're now learning that Mark Lamparello was arrested Monday at Newark's Cathedral after refusing to leave the church. Police released Lamparello into his mother's custody. 2 days later, on Wednesday, he was confronted inside St. Patrick's, allegedly carrying 2 large gasoline containers and lighters. New York authorities have accused him of attempted arson and other crimes. The 37-year-old New Jersey man is a PhD student in New York. He also taught classes at Brooklyn College, Lehman College, and Seton Hall University. There's a lot more news headed your way. Good Friday gives way to the joy of Easter. In moments, Bishop DiMarzio talks about the risen Lord as the light of the world and the emotional journey of pilgrims walking in the footsteps of the Lord. We'll be right back. Easter Sunday is the most important day on the Catholic calendar. A few days ago, Bishop DiMarzio stopped by to speak with Ed Wilkinson about the risen Christ as the light of the world. Ed.
Thank you, Liz, and Bishop DiMarzio is with us today. We're getting through the Triduum, Bishop, during Holy Week, and we look forward to Easter Sunday. And it'd be nice to talk a little bit about what do we believe as Christians, as Catholics, really happened on that first Easter morning. I mean, you always make it a point to talk about bodily resurrection.
That's right.
How important is it that it was a bodily resurrection and not just a symbolic resurrection? What do we think actually happened?
Well, what actually happened was a corporeal resurrection, that Jesus, who was dead, it was alive. Alive in a different way, obviously, not alive in a corpse, but a resurrected, glorious body of Jesus. So it wasn't just a symbolic thing. The body was gone. It was resurrected, and it wasn't there, it wasn't hidden someplace. So that's really important to say, because over the centuries, you've had so many people questioning that. It's difficult to believe. That Jesus was God is difficult to believe. These are the mysteries of our faith. But the resurrection is one that has been attacked in so many different ways. And I think we really have to emphasize that. That's the central mystery of our faith. That's what gives it credence. We really have to emphasize that that's what happened, and that's what it is, and that's why we believe. Mm-hmm. So I do put that forward a lot.
Yeah. In the days following Easter Sunday, of course, Jesus walked and talked with his disciples. He appeared to them, and we believe that they actually saw him and actually conversed, right?
Well, the scriptures testify to that. He ate with them. He prepared food for them. What more can you say? This wasn't some kind of spiritual presence. It was a real presence. And that's what the disciples testified to. That's why they believed. That's what changed them. So I think we have to take the witness from them and recognize that this is what really happened.
Mm-hmm. And of course, to us, it means that Jesus is always with us, that he remains with us in the church. Where do we see Jesus among us today, walking and talking with us?
Well, again, each Christian, every baptized person carries within them the image of Jesus Christ. We're baptized into the life and the death of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So this is, we are for one another icons of Christ. Priests in kind of a special way. They're designated to show Christ in that way, but every Christian brings Christ with them. They're Christ bearers. And that's really the reality. We have to see Christ in everyone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes people aren't the way we think they should be, but if we look hard enough, there's always goodness in everyone. There's always the image of Christ. The image of Christ is there, sometimes refracted in different ways, but it's there, and that's our job to find it.
Yeah, and at the Easter Vigil, which is the great liturgy of light in the church, say something about how that begins. The church begins in total darkness that night, and it goes to this symbolic liturgy of light. What does the light mean?
Well, we light a new fire. It's the beginning of a new year, new life. We light the Paschal candle, which is the symbol of Christ, who is the light of the world. We carry that as part of the baptismal liturgy, because it is really the baptismal liturgy that makes the vigil so unique, where especially adults are baptized, they're received into the church sometimes if they've been already baptized. So that's the great night. That's the night that people remember that we get the whole history of salvation. If we do all the readings, it takes a long time, but you do understand from the Old Testament to the New what happened, how we're saved, and that we're incorporated into Christ. So there's a complete initiation for those who were not baptized. First they're baptized, then confirmed, then they receive the Eucharist at the same Mass. So for them it's a complete rite of initiation.
Okay, Bishop, thank you so much. Happy Easter to you. And
thank you.
Liz, happy Easter to you.
Oh, thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. I hope both of you have a happy Easter as well. Still to come on Currents News, the emotions of Good Friday are experienced by pilgrims who climbed the same stairs Christ walked before his crucifixion. The story is next. And do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@thesalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Pilgrims are following the path of Christ this Holy Week in a very unique way, climbing the original stairs that Jesus is said to have climbed before being sentenced to death by Pontius Pilate. It's the first time in centuries Catholics have been able to do so, and many go up on their knees in an act of devotion. Delia Gallagher reports from Rome on their emotional, once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The Gospel of John recounts that Jesus went up these stairs several times.
The rector of the Holy Stairs, Father Francesco GUERRA, says they were brought to Rome from Jerusalem in the 4th century. For the first time in centuries, visitors to Rome can climb the original 28 stairs, thanks to a recent restoration that removed wooden planks that had covered the stairs for 300 years. And it turned up a surprising discovery: deep grooves in the marble caused by centuries of wear and tear from the knees and feet of pilgrims. And drops of Jesus' blood that are said to have fallen on the steps, marked by medieval crosses in 3 places. Frank SCHERRA, a U.S. soldier stationed in Germany who climbed the stairs with his 6 children, explains what the devotional act means to him.
Time to reflect and to think about people that have had an impact on my faith and my family, and those that are I know in heaven or they're trying to get there, and just a chance to pray for them.
Others have recounted stories of conversions and deeply emotional experiences from their climb. At the top of the stairs is a room called the Holy of Holies. It was once a private chapel of popes, and it contains relics of saints and one of the oldest icons of Jesus found in Rome from the 5th century. The stairs will soon be covered over again with wood to protect the marble, but for the next few weeks, visitors to Rome can literally walk, or at least kneel, in what are believed to be the original footsteps of Jesus. Delia Gallagher, Rome.
And before we go, we want to remind you that you can keep up with the latest on the rebuilding of the Notre Dame Cathedral. For more reports from our team on the ground in Paris, go to currentsny.tv and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Currents News. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. On behalf of the Currents News team, we hope you have a blessed Easter. And thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.